pandemic. Breaking connections to the world. Empowering language on humanity. Let's bring the world of learning in one channel. Welcome to Business Combinations English TV.
Good day, everyone. My name is Ma'am Myra F. Arellano, and I am a grade 10 English teacher in DCBS MNHS. Today, we are going to talk about Modules 3 and 4. I am going to particularly discuss Module 3, which is about literary criticism through the Marxist lens. In this lesson class, there are 3 objectives. You are expected to, number 1, know the proponent of Marxism. Number 2, understand the Marxist literary approach and some of its relying principles. Number 3, critique a literary text in the lens of Marxism. So, let's get started. I want you to try to answer this 4 picks 1 word challenge. Write your answer on the space provided. Let's take a closer look at these pictures. These are the jumbled letters to form a word. Do you already have an idea what is the word we are looking for? You are correct. The word is inequality. According to Merriam-Webster, inequality means the quality of being unequal or uneven, such as social disparity. That is more like being unfair. Now, before we proceed to our lesson proper, we have to know who this guy is. Who is Karl Marx? Let's get to know him better. Karl Marx is the proponent of this theory, Marxism. He lived in London at the time of industrialization and traveled extensively through Europe. He saw a highly developed continent where the tensions ran high because of social inequality. According to Karl Marx, social inequality was a consequence of the arrival of the division of labor and, moreover, was what had led to the class society. Let's take a closer look at this picture. The photo is illustrating Marxism. Marxism is a cultural theory that embodies a set of social, economic, and political ideas that its followers believe will enable them to interpret and change their world. Marxist critics are also interested in how the lower or working classes are oppressed, that is, in everyday life and in literature. Now, in this illustration, this reflects economics, politics, the kind of people and their society where they live in. A literary piece can be subject to analysis not just on its feature elements and devices alone, but also in its contents. The style of the writer in developing the plot and to the extent of his background as a compelling contributing factor and to the overall effect of the whole story. Now, class, in doing a Marxist literary criticism, you have to look for the following details. Number 1, social classes that constitute the setting of the story. Number 2, the characteristic of such social classes. Number 3, author's idea about the prevailing social issue, just like oppression. 4. The technique of the author in using social conflict. Number 5. Resolving the embedded issue or problem. 6. Author's message on the issue or problem, whether the message is stated directly or implied. 7. The author's main purpose in writing the story is present and that is far from entertaining the reader. Number 8. Background of the author and his views on economy, politics, and society. And last, the place where the literary piece was written. Now, the place refers to the time, period, culture, traditions, practices, economy, politics that might have influenced one literary piece. So class, in doing a Marxist literary criticism, I want you to remember to take note of the details that were narrated. So, one of the best examples of literary piece that is injected with Marxism theory is the popular 1997 movie Titanic. Have you watched that movie? Now, this movie makes the class struggle obvious that it portrays differences in classes and struggle among them. The ship Titanic itself represents the class struggle, showing the first class passengers on the upper decks and the third class passengers unable to reach the higher decks. This is a good use of positioning as a metaphor for the struggle the proletariat, or the so-called lowest social class of a community, has of reaching the heights of the ruling classes. Now, as for the two main characters, as you can see in the picture, Rose and Jack are the complete opposite. Rose is a rich young woman who has everything she could want. On the other hand, Jack has nothing. At the beginning of the film, Jack is trying to gamble his way to America by trying to win third-class tickets in a poker game. The way the different classes are treated by the bourgeoisie, that's a French word for middle class, is so obvious in the scenes depicting the sinking of the ship, wherein the ruling class orders that the third class passengers are to be locked in the lower decks while the first class passengers have the chance to get aboard lifeboats. Interesting, isn't it? Now that you already have a picture of Marxism on your mind, it's time for you to read an interesting summary of a play. This story is written by Edward Albee. Edward Albee is considered as the foremost American playwright of his generation, who introduced himself with a bang in 1959 when his first produced one-act play, The Zoo Story, opened in Berlin. The story is about an isolated young man who is so desperate to interact with other people. The skyrocketing launch of this play helped propel the blossoming theater movement that became known as Off-Broadway. As I said, I want you to read The Zoo Story by Edward Albee, and then after that, answer the guided practice, activities, and post-test in your module. So, to sum up the Marxist literary approach, class, let's not forget that one of the main issues that is present or evident in Marxist literary texts is the social class struggle, and that is sometimes depicted or shown in the inequality that is present in our society, just like what you see in the picture. Now that you have learned in this lesson that inequality in our society can make a big impact on our lives, I want you to write your realizations after learning from this lesson by completing the statement. After learning from this lesson, I have realized that, so I want you to complete that statement. So, that pretty much ends our Module 3.